Oh, it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Oh, won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Hi, neighbor. How are you today? It's a beautiful sunny day. Look how beautiful and sunny it is out. And it's just another wonderful, wonderful day. And me, I am beautiful because I invested about $3,000 in Browns football cards and watched them get run off the field and humiliated by a so-so team. Now, if I want to be a really glass half full type of dude, I can be like, this is a wake-up call, this humiliation, and you know, but the truth of the matter is they played like they were coached by a retarded frog. Okay, I think they committed the most penalties in Browns history since the 1950s. There's no way you can win a football game like that. Last time I checked, before I couldn't take any more, it was 17 penalties for 159 yards. And a lot of them penalties wiped out first downs. And I don't know what the final score was, but I'm like, after it was like 29-13, I'm like, why are you not protecting your quarterback? You barely play your quarterback the whole whole preseason to protect him, and now you're throwing him in a situation where he has to throw on every play. If you wanted to work on his timing and figuring out his new receiver, Odell Beckham, and all the new guys in the offense and stuff, why don't you do that in the preseason where people don't try to kill you? So, yeah, not fun to watch that, you know. Uh, but it's a long season, so it's just one very bad, very humiliating loss. It doesn't say much about the coach when you got players getting ejected for kicking people while they're on the ground and punching people in the face. And yeah, it was just horrible. It was a nightmare to watch. I mean, the Titans, come on. If you get the crap beat out of you by, like, I don't know, New England, even the Ravens, it's acceptable. But yeah, I would not want to be anybody associated with the Browns organization trying to sleep right now. They'd probably be having as much success as I am. But that's enough about football. I already made a video, like, chronicling a couple of events. And for some reason, it was corrupted or there was something wrong with it. I couldn't play it. When I uploaded it, it said it was corrupted. I mean, I don't know what that means. I did a little test run and sang my little Mr. Rogers song and then played it back. And seems to be working now. I don't know if you can see that. We used to call that a strawberry when we were kids, where you almost scrape your skin off, but not quite. Yeah, that happened about 45 minutes ago, where I slipped and fell and I grabbed the counter and I refused to let myself fall because I figured I could regain my feet, but my feet kept slipping out from underneath me. So I kept like sort of road rashing this part of my arm on the counter over and over again, and dinged up my leg a little bit. So 4 Gabapentin and 2 Valium. I have to figure out the sleeping thing. I'm probably going to have to break out the Doxepin, which I only keep as a suicide pill. And I don't like the effects of it because it doesn't wear off. And I go into the um, psychiatrist or psychiatric nurse. Um, 3 o'clock tomorrow. It's 12 after midnight here. So I was hoping maybe I could catch a little Z's and the pills will wear off or whatever. But the two significant events that I covered were I have a cat outside. Okay, this cat is like I did such a good job telling this story before because of the complexity of it. But the cat, I just made an outside cat because I was having enough trouble walking, and it would be like walking between my feet and stuff. And it dropped a couple of deuces on my bed, which definite no, even though they weren't messy. I'm like, why are you taking craps on my bed? I mean, what's your deal? But I like the cat. I've had bad experiences with cats in the past, so I'm not just going to leave him to the wolves. He's dependent upon me for food. He has to suffer through an Ohio winter, so I want to take him with me. The problem is when Stampy moved in last October, I retreated into this cave. So whenever it would rain or whatever, he would be out there in the living room area asking me to let him in the window, and I would not be there because I'd be in my cave, avoiding the hideous brontosaurus-like vibrations coming from upstairs. So I go out there, and I got my can of tuna fish. I got my can of cat food. I got a little seat back there I'm sitting on, he's out there. And I'm like talking sweet to him like you do, because animals, I've never seen a cat or a dog that did not like being sweet talked to. I've seen people that didn't like it, but I've never seen an animal that didn't like it. So I'm out there, I'm like, hey man, how you doing, bud? Why don't you come over here? I got something for you. And I got the can opener and start opening up the can. And two other cats come out of nowhere because that's like an international signal of good times if they hear that can opener rolling to cats. And I'm like, oh, that's the one cat that looks like it might be his son, and the really aggressive gray and white cat. But he smells the tuna and he's all about it. So he comes racing over, but he won't get that close to me. So I got those food trays on a string. I put the tuna in the food tray, and I'm like swinging it back and forth, and I swing it at a safe distance away from him, and he sits there and he eats it in front of me. And one of the other cats comes over and tries to glom onto it and gets a little bit too close to him, so he has to lay down the law on him a little bit, whap, 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 and let him know who's boss. And then he eats until he's satisfied, and one cat comes over and cleans up the rest of it. And he goes over and he puts his back to me like he's shunning me, like he's an Amish person or a Jehovah Witness, and I just lighted up a joint because they don't hold with smoking even cigarettes, man. They'll shun you if you're a Jehovah Witness. At least according to my Jehovah Witness friend back in the day. But anyways, he won't even look at me, man. It's like he's holding a grudge on me. Like, yeah, thanks for opening the windows all those times and making me hide under cars and shit when it was pouring rain. And I'm talking to him, and his ears are barely even going back listening to me. So it's like he's not feral, or he wouldn't come nowhere near me. But he's like, it's like he's holding a grudge, So I'm like, I sit out there for a long time, trying to get him used to my presence. And then I'm like, I give up, and I walk back up the steps, But as I'm walking back up the steps, I'm like, look at all these beer cans out here. There's like a shitload of beer cans. Because Warvet upstairs, man, throws them out the window. He asked me about that. He said, you don't care about all them cans out there. And I said, I don't care about nothing that happens in this place anymore after getting sprayed with poison. He's like, okay. So he just drinks and for whatever godforsaken reason throws them out the window. So, there's maybe like, I don't know, at least 50. somewhere between 50 and 100 beer cans out there, the tall kind. A few pop cans, a few Mike's Hard lemonades, and whatever. So those steps are real dangerous and hard to climb up, but I climb up the steps. I'm sitting on the porch. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and there's nobody out but me. And this clean, younger looking fella looks fairly healthy, so it doesn't look like he has a heavy crack or meth issue, is walking along, and he's got like this pitiful bag with maybe half a dozen cans in it, right? And I'm watching this guy from up the street, and he's looking in garbage cans, and everything's all sealed up and whatever. And he's not looking in the aluminum recycle cans, which is where I think that's where the aluminum goes. So I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I don't understand this guy's strategy. And then he starts picking stuff up off the road, like plastic and whatever, and he starts throwing them in the recycle bins. And I'm like, this guy is either out of his mind, or he's like the most conscientious person in the world. Like, why wouldn't you rob recycle bins if they got aluminum in them? And they're all getting recycled anyway. You're just taking them into the recycle bins. But he's got some kind of weird ethical system in his head that I don't have. That, like, people want that to be in those bins. So it's not his place to take them. So he's just looking on the road for random cans or whatever. So I'm just watching this strange behavior. And he isn't doing this for nobody's benefit. He's just doing it. Because it's just me out there. There ain't nobody out there. It's 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And I was like, hey. And he turned around and I said, man, you looking for cans? And he's like, yeah. I said, there's a whole shitload of cans back there, man. You can go back and get. Now those cans were thrown out the window by the slightly unstable war vet individual. But I'm like, I can do 3 people a favor here. I can do this guy a favor by hooking him up with a bunch of cans. I can do me a favor by getting rid of the said bunch of cans, which are hard to walk through to get to the cats, because I plan on going back out there and trying to make friends with that cat. Because I need to be able to put him in a carrier when I move. And that kind of means I have to be able to get him to come within 10 feet of me. And the other guy I can do a favor for is the war vet himself, because he won't have to go to the recycle center, and I'll pay him, if aluminum goes for 55 cents a pound, I'll pay him a good sum for the cans or whatever. So I go back inside for a while, and he wakes up late. It's the war vet, and he's sitting out on the porch, and I'm like, well, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, I seen a guy walking down the street, and I let him pick up all them beer cans that you've been throwing out in the back in the window there. And I said, how about a pack of cigarettes for him? Because a pack of cigarettes costs like $6. Aluminum's 55 cents a pound. And I said, so how about a pack of cigarettes? He looked at me and said, how about a right hand? He's pissed as fuck, And I'm like, I was like, if you feel the need. And he was like, those were mine. He says, it's not, wasn't your right to give them away. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to pay you for them. I'm going to pay you. I was like, you see that big garbage bag of cans you got on the porch? He's like, you told me the other day that 55 cents a pound is what aluminum goes for. He's got a big lawn and trash bag of cans. I was like, how much do you think that bag of cans worth? And he's like, $2.50. And I was like, well, this guy come away. He had like the grocery bags of cans, like 3 of them. It's like, so you're making out on the deal. He's like, that's not the point. Those were my cans. I was saving them for a rainy day, like when I need money. And I'm like, what, do you need money now? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, then you're getting like $6 for like $1.50 or $2 worth of cans. And he just kept on about the point that those were his cans and those he was saving those for a rainy day. And it's like pouring on him. He hasn't had a job for like ever. So he said, as he was going inside, he said, I ought to cut off your hand for stealing my shit. And I'm like, you spent a lot. I was like, what are you, an Arab now? Because he spent a lot of time in Arab countries where they cut off your hand for stealing. And so I was like, here's $1 for a cigarette. Okay, there's just more money in his pocket. So I go, because I had already went in the house and I put like $14 in my pocket because, to pay him for the cans. And then I thought maybe we could get a poker game going or something. And so I was like, here's $1, for a cigarette. He's like, okay. He's not turning down that deal. That's about what I paid him for the cans, but the cans are a different matter in his mind. And they had some kind of personal significance to him. Like, I think he was trying to get across to me, like, he looks out at all those cans and it reminds him that he needs to drink less or something like that. Meanwhile, there's just a bunch of garbage scattered all over, like in the back there, all around to where I used to have a garden. I asked Roy about it and asked how many cans he could see, and he's like, I could see, I counted about 25, but he said, but it's real brushy back there, so there's probably more back there. So, he's not, every time I try to figure this out, I'm having no luck. So we're just playing cards, and I'm not playing my A game. I don't care. I'm pretty flush this month. So I'm just kind of like, not losing on purpose, but I'm not playing real tight. And I'm like, here you go. Here's $1 for 2 cigarettes. And he's like, okay. And then I just can't figure. I just want to understand, I just want to understand what's going on up here. So like I bring it up again. And he was like, how would you feel if I took like one of your football cards out of the mailbox and then paid you for it? I was like, well, if you paid me double for it, that would be what I want, because that's what I'm trying to do. And he's like bringing up other examples that aren't working, and he's getting frustrated. And I'm like, I tell you what, how about we just drop the subject? And I won't touch none of your stuff or nothing that belongs to you ever again for any reason. He's like, okay. And I had like a big sea of pennies. I hate pennies. And at least $1's worth of pennies. Somewhere between $1 and $1.50 is worth of pennies. After I said, I'm not playing any more poker. And I said, you can have these pennies here. And he goes, no, those are your pennies. And I was like, no, I don't like pennies. You know that. And I said, he's like, will you put them in a jug for me? Because he had like a milk jug with a really small hole in it. And I'm like, he thought about it. And before I could say no, he was like, I'll do it. And he's putting them in the pennies. So the bottom line is I walk out there with $14 and I walk in with nothing. Because I pay him like $5 originally for the cans. He said a pack of cigarettes worth $6. So I was like, how about then $1 for just one cigarette? He's like, okay, so that's $6. And then I gave him that money off the table at the end of the game, and then played shitty poker, and gave him some more money. So like by trying to be a good person and help out 3 people at the same time, I'm down $14, which is entirely consistent with the nature of the universe. At least in its attitude toward me. And this all started because I was watching this guy. It all started actually because I wanted to bond with my cat, and then I ended up sitting on the porch tired and having to take a breather, and watching this strange individual, which may or may not have had problems, scrounging for cans and having no luck, and understanding that there's a gold mine back there so I can make his day, and then I can make Chris's day, and then I can make my day by picking up, getting all that garbage picked up. But it didn't kind of work out that way, and I'm never bringing it up to him again. And um, even the guy I had count the cans, Roy, he was like, please do not offer my opinion to Chris. And I'm like, loose lips sink ships, bro. We were texting, and so that happened. Now, this particular video will get progressively worse, of course, because I'm on 2 Valium, and I'm on 20 milligrams of Valium and 400 milligrams of Gabapentin, because I just fell and hurt myself, and I want to get a little bit of sleep before 3 o'clock rolls around in the afternoon, and I have to be down there talking to a shrink about getting the fuck out of here and out of this madhouse. And you know, again, don't look like much on camera because of the lighting, maybe. Yeah, that didn't help it at all. It just made me look uglier. But if you know what that is, like strawberrying an area like that, and my arms, my hands, and my arms are like real sensitive, I guess, to make up for the fact that my lower half sucks, and I could sit on a wrench and think it was an uncomfortable chair. And so this area, like my fingers and hands and shit, are like real sensitive. And yeah. Anyways, so we'll move on to the next story, which is my doctor's visit. Now, this is kind of why I sung the Mr. Rogers song, because I refer to this guy as Mr. Rogers because of the way he talks and shit. So my appointment is for 2:20. It's a third of a mile to get to my doctor's. It's why I kept the doctor. I could go there myself when I could ride my electric bike. I get in the car, and this guy's like, hi, my name's Steven. And I look at him, and I'm like, yeah, I know. My name's Steve, too. This is the guy that drove me back from my Medina Cleveland Clinic orthopedic appointment, which totally was a horrible appointment, to the point where it was sinking into my head that I'm not going to get my knee operated on. And this is the exact date, April 19th of this year. So it's sinking in my head in the lobby after I call for my ride. And I have 2 bands, hospital bands on. One said fall risk, and one was your standard hospital band. And it's not exactly an amazing feat of strength or anything like that, but generally speaking, they cut those off with a pair of scissors. I just grabbed them like this in a lobby full of people and ripped them off and threw them. And everybody was like, I didn't see nothing. And they're like, they're back to their tablets and stuff, playing around and stuff, because I was a bit animated. I didn't swear or anything, but I was a bit animated before I ripped off those plastic bands and just threw them. And I get Mr. Rogers, Steven, to drive me home. And he's like, well, Steve, this is the way he talks. He's like, well, Steve, sometimes things happen, and, you just kind of have to look on the bright side of things, and, like, you never know how things are going to play out. This might actually be a good thing. He says this to me as a complete stranger. I've had a Baker cyst, which is an excruciatingly painful thing in my knee, for 4 years. That's ruined relationships. That's kept me barely sane, and that's made it very difficult trying to taper off of benzos with the knee where you cannot get out of the house and walk on it safely. It just strawberried my arm. Uh, it's like, so I'm listening to this guy, and he's like, it's just, you have to kind of like just look at it from a different perspective, you know. Just and he has a slow way of talking, and you know, it's very Mister Rogers like he's reassuring a child. And that's when I said that I had the thought ran through my head to see if I could, you know, just break up his monotonous tone just by grabbing the wheel on the main drag and just turning it sideways so that we would flip over a couple of times, you know, but then that would hurt other people, so I couldn't have done that. But the thought ran through my mind because I am so fucking upset about not getting anything done after trying for 6 months to get this knee operated on. I know this guy's not going to operate on my knee. I got the final word like a month later, but I could already tell because he said, listen, he said, you know, that phrase where I said they basically felt they were out of their depth. And he said, well, to be honest with you, if they're out of their depth, probably means I'm out of my depth too. Which to me is a pretty hard no from a doctor as far as breaking out the scalpel. So this is after being left out in the cold in appointments and freezing my ass off, and that one story, and then going to appointments here, going to appointments there, putting up with my primary caregiver and all this shit. Not to mention my whole fucked up history. And this guy is like knows none of this or knows nothing about me, and he's like trying to philosophize with me without knowing anything about me, which is driving me utterly batshit for 45 minutes. It's a 45-minute ride from Medina back home. So I'm like, we're finally home. And I start to get out of the car. I actually have my back to him, and he says, well, Steve, you know, if I did anything that could have brightened up your day or made you feel better in any way or helped you out, that would really make me feel good to have done that. And I want to turn around and say, listen, motherfucker, you don't know nothing about what you're talking about. You're talking to a complete stranger. You have no background on the story. It's like you're doing this just because, I don't know, either you have oatmeal for brains or you're a thoughtless, narcissistic person who has no interest in the actual person that you are driving. And perhaps you might have asked me some questions about my backstory or how long I was suffering with the knee, or ask me anything. And then maybe you wouldn't have been such an asshole for the last 45 minutes. But I'm not saying any of this shit because it's a good transportation service and I don't want to lose it. And so I'm just sitting there with my back to him, listening to these words hit me in the back of the head like rocks. And I'm just like, let me get in my fucking house. This, you know, I've had a long goddamn morning. It's the story where I got off on the wrong floor and was walking around with a walker and had a sore leg for 2 days after the appointment. Which, you know, if he would have asked, I would have told him about that. But he didn't ask. He just wanted to play Sister Mary Sunshine. Yeah, I don't ever want to see that guy again. Ever. Okay, I like the guy better that was talking about my uncles beating people with pool cues and leaving them in pools of blood in the palms. That was a much better driver than this guy. I don't want to be his neighbor. I don't want to be his friend. You know, and I won't be I won't be any of them things ever. Because it's like if I see that guy, I'm like, and we're on a long trip, I might have to like be like I have a sudden bout of like intestinal flu. I have to run inside and cancel my appointment. I'm very sorry. I apologize. And just get the fuck away from it before I go off. Because how are you going to talk to a stranger like that and tell them to look on the bright side? Somebody with my life, you're telling me to look on the bright side. Okay? So So, anyways, the dude shows up way the fuck early. I was like, you realize we only have to go a third of a mile? And he goes, yeah, but I figured I'm in no hurry and I could just sit out here and wait and you could come out when you felt like coming out. And I'm like, actually, that makes me more nervous to have somebody sitting out there waiting on me than to be waiting in the office. I'm going to be waiting either way. So, I did have to rush a little bit getting dressed while this vehicle was out there. And so I get there early to my appointment and I get in there. And because I have contact with Steven and because I have beef with my doctor, and I took a blood pressure pill and a Valium before I went in there because, I've been trying to get a scooter since December of last year with no luck. Okay. Uh, so my blood pressure is high. It's like 182 over something or another. It's very high for me, even though I took a blood pressure pill. And my pulse rate is 100. I'm just sitting there in a chair. And things are going well because I'm going to get into my appointment early. I got there way early. Appointment's at 2:20. They call me in at before 2 o'clock. And then the doctor shows up. It's like either 2:20 or 2:18 when he shows up. It's like boom, right on time. So I should have been cool and stuff like that. But no, not cool. And he sits down. And he usually asks me to sit up on the table. So I'm wearing shorts because I want to show him my ugly ass legs, and I'm going to walk in front of him. That's the things I was determined to do. And he was like, well, today, Steve, I think I'll just let you talk about whatever you want to talk to me about, whatever problems you got. And I'm like, I want to talk about two things. It's like, I want to talk about this knee getting operated on. I want to talk about that mobility scooter that I've been trying to get. And he's like, okay. And I said, I talked to an aid worker. And they gave me I had it on a sheet of paper. They gave me this particular doctor at Spectrum Orthopedics. He's supposed to be real good, and I would like a referral to see this guy. And they're like, yeah, we can do that for you. And I'm like, good. He said there's a couple of groups, but this is like one option you have. And I said, no, this is the option I want. Here's the paper. Here's the guy's name. Handed him the paper. I had the other paper written out that I talked to my advocate from Miller's mobility scooter place. And she told me that the forms that he failed to fax in were written account of the appointment on 5/22 and a detailed written order that needs signed by him. Now, how you can forget a detailed written order, that seems kind of like an important phrase. I don't know. But he was like, oh, this will be easy when he was talking about an account of the 5/22 appointment. So, which was my official trying to get a scooter appointment. Because he tried to bypass that before, like way back when, sometime in March. But he couldn't do it. They said, I called them, Miller's up, and they said, no, we need a specific appointment where you're specifically only talking about the mobility scooter. And I already had the packet in the mail that this very conscientious young lady, Megan, sent me. And it was all good to go, and it was bypassing physical therapy appointment. So people are telling me, well, if this doctor isn't working, why don't you go to another doctor? And I'm like, you don't understand the process. This guy's already got the process started. If I go to another doctor, he'll have me go to a physical therapy thing, and they will test my upper body strength. And I just about ripped out a guy's arm the other day, and I challenged him to arm wrestling, and he couldn't move me. And they're not gonna give me what I want. If I go through this guy, it's already written on the paper exactly what I want: a $2,300 mobility scooter with which I can do my shopping, not a motorized wheelchair, which maybe I can carry a dozen eggs on my lap on. And so, they more people that, making assumptions don't get it, but more forgivable than Mr. Rogers. Um, so, he says, I can see your knees like swollen up. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty bad. And I said, this is how I walk now. I didn't even make up an excuse to get up and walk. And I start walking around the room with my ostrich looking walk with the legs bent forward and shit. And he's like, oh, he gets up and he's like holding his hands out to catch me. And I said, don't even try. I said, I'm just hold on to the wall. I'll be fine. And then he's like, I'm like, you see all them dents and stuff on my legs after I sat down? I said, those are all the times that I've fallen in the last 6 months. I got like dents. I mean, I don't even have like I have scars, I have dents, I have bruises and shit from all the falling that I do and stuff because I don't have this mobility scooter. Because even Megan said it's never taken this long before to get the ball rolling as far as helping somebody out in your situation. She said, this is, in my experience, this is the longest it's ever taken. I'm like, of course it is, because it's me. And the universe doesn't like me. So, yeah, of course. Um, so, he's looking at my legs and he's like, you got a walker? And I'm like, yeah, I got a walker and a cane. Which one do you use? I'm like, I use both. He said, do you fall out when you use the walker? And I was like, well, I fall less when I use the walker. And he's like, well, I just would recommend using the walker all the time, which is super inconvenient because I don't know, it's kind of hard to carry things when you're using a walker. I don't have like a tray or anything like that when I'm carrying my meals and stuff. And then there's the fact that my brother, I paid $200 for my brother to give me bed bugs, so now I can never have my house clean again. So he says, um, I tell him I don't use a walker because my house is kind of cluttered up. He said, well, why don't you do something about the clutter? And this is another point where I'm thinking, here's another guy who is not using his noodle. It's like, you've just seen me walk. I've just told you it's excruciatingly painful. And to the point where he said, we're going to raise your gabapentin dosage from 100 milligrams to 300 milligrams. We can go as high as 600 milligrams if need be. And he's like, well, like, why don't you clear out some of the clutter? And I'm not getting into the whole bed bug thing. Okay, I'm just not getting into it with the doctor. I'm not getting into it. But even if there was no bed bugs in here, it is very hard to clean house when you're just walking through your house strawberrying your arm. And I don't know what I did to my knee, but I did something to my knee because that was the foot that was slipping. And I kept trying to, use my upper body strength and, right myself, which I should have just fell on my ass and started from scratch. But that was like, it was like I stepped in butter or something with that, which is a possibility actually with my right foot. But I'm like, this is why people drive me crazy. It's like, all you gotta do is take a couple seconds and think this shit out. You don't ask somebody that you just up their pain medication on a controlled substance now, since gabapentin is a controlled substance, to do a bunch of housework. I just showed you me walking, and I just told you it's excruciatingly painful. So that wasn't fun. So uh, the appointment's over with. I'm just sticking to those 2 points. That was my goal. I was like, 2 points. I'm starting up with the knee again. I'm going to get that motherfucker cut one way or another. I'm going to get something done about this. I mentioned arthroscopic meniscus surgery, and he said, but there's nothing wrong with your meniscus. And I'm thinking, you just told me that you have no record of the medical um, Cleveland Clinic visit. He said, the last thing we have on you is the Tri-County Orthopedics visit. We don't have anything about the Medina Cleveland Clinic. He's like, where did you go after that? And I'm like, that was 419 when I did that. I was in your office 2 times since then, and you didn't write this shit down. And somehow it just escaped your pen after you got, So he may know whereof he speaks because all those tests were ordered through the Altman Group, which he is a part of the Altman Group. None of those tests was ordered by the Cleveland Clinic. And I asked him, I said, I don't have to go through all them tests again, do I? And he's like, no, I don't really believe him. But I said, no, because the new guy, that's not up to him. That's up to the new guy at the Spectrum Orthopedics. He might want to run me through all the tests again, the EMG, the MRI, the x-rays, the ultrasounds, all the tests that I had on my knee. So I got to be prepared for that eventuality of going through these annoying tests, and everything's difficult for me because I'm not shirtless here because I'm an Adonis. That's just a coincidence, you know. Um, and then this, disappointment finally ends. And I'm like, I go down to like the lobby where you can see outside, get off the elevator. And they decided to remove the couch, so I have nowhere to sit. And I'm just standing there on my leg, which hurts. And I make my call, and I'm like, I'm ready to be picked up. And they're like, it'll be about 15 minutes. And I'm like, I'm going to be standing here for 15 minutes. So I sat on a radiator. I tested it, make sure it wasn't hot first. And it's just sitting on this metal radiator for a while. And I'm like, waiting for Steven to show up. Mr. Rogers, and Mr. Rogers didn't show up, just a regular guy showed up. And then I told him the Dr. C story because it was organic, because he was asking about affinity, and he was like, is your doctor's like the only doctor in the whole damn building, it seems like. Why are they keeping the building open? And I said, because it's the Altman Group, and they're probably going to take over the Affinity Hospital building and expand, because they're always expanding. And they're going to keep that building, and then my doctor is going to have like a company pretty soon. It is kind of like a ghost town. You expect to see like tumbleweeds rolling down the hallway when I go to see my doctor, because there's nobody there but him. And it's like it's a two-story building, and it's just, you never run into anyone in the hallway. There's just no one there. It's got that empty feeling in it, But so I make it home. I'm stressed out, it's just annoyed. And of course, there's no one to bum a cigarette at, because I always want a cigarette, even when I wasn't like. Now I'm kind of like got a fairly evil smoking Jones, and but even before I had like. That's always like was a ritual with me, like when I come out of the doctor, to smoke a cigarette. So I picked out a bunch of Melinda, the aide. Oh shit, I said her name. Damn it. Now I gotta edit. Well, I picked out a bunch of my aide worker cigarettes because she seemed like the cleanest person around there, and she doesn't smoke them all the way down. And I went in the house and jacked off. Just because I knew a guy. It's alcoholic, but he had one good piece of advice, because his father was a complete bastard. Like, beat him, not just like, he wasn't just. My dad would spank you. Okay, he's not gonna hit you, punch you, or he did kick me once. But I mean, he's not gonna. He didn't do that shit to the younger generation of children. But this guy would actually beat up his kids. So he was talking about his father one day, and he said he went to his funeral, and somebody said condolences, and he says, condolences? I'm just here to make sure the motherfucker's dead. He actually said that, and I believe him that he said that. He said, I wanted to look at him in the casket dead to make sure that he was dead. That's, uh, and I'm like, well, how do you deal with all that anger and, all that stuff that he did to you? Because he actually went to school in gym class and they seen all the bruises on him and stuff, and it became a whole big thing. It was like, that's that kind of a thing. And he goes, dude, I just put it all into my dick, so that's what I did when I came home. And, yeah, so I got like 5 of the person that I got to name who I has to edit out cigarettes, and I'm sitting there smoking them. And getting like 2 puffs off of them and putting them out. Getting like 2 puffs off of them and putting them out, and watching nasty stuff on the computer because I don't have much libido anymore. Because I think because of the benzo thing, the volume. I also realized that I didn't know exactly how evil my landlord was, and also my initial withdrawal was forced upon me. But I should have never ever even tried to quit benzos while I was living here. My first priority should have been to get out of here and get into a stable environment where I'm not hearing people, where I'm in a normal. This is just a big house. This is just like, if you had problems with a brother or a sister or whatever when you were growing up, it's just a house that's sectioned off into rooms. A real apartment building has concrete reinforcements, and I had a neighbor. Oh my God, was she gorgeous? She looked like the sexiest Eskimo ever. Legs like you wouldn't believe. I didn't realize I was that much of a leg man until I saw her legs. But anyways, barely knew the people right next door. Never heard them, And that's the kind of situation that I want. A bunkered in regular apartment building. And, I should have never even tried to quit here. So I've been torturing myself for. When did I even start trying to quit? That would be January. No. That would be March of 2018 is when I got the involuntary 50% reduction and decided, like, okay, I got to quit this shit. And then if you follow me, you could see like the cavalcade of disaster. Okay, the pills must be kicking in. You can see this like pattern of like, troublesome people, noise, hood people, dope fiends, meth heads, crack. You see the whole fucking pattern. Like it was stupid. The first thing I should have tried to do was to move out of here when I had this problem, but I didn't really have any sane people in my life that could advise me on that and be like, look, or somebody with benzo experience that'd be like, look, this is no place to try to quit. Something like that, And then you never know when something can happen. Like a stampede can move in above you, and drive you into a cell because while you're going through withdrawal, the last thing you need is to be at a rock concert with one note. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, I was like, oh man, I just realized that a couple of days ago. It's like I put myself through over a year of hell, of ups and downs on the benzo roller coaster for fucking nothing. If I would have had some good advice or just thought it out, like I believed I had a good landlord at that point. I didn't realize I had a bad landlord until I was already trying to quit Xanax, and the meth situation occurred. You know, I just believed all his bullshit because he's a good con man. But I'm not sure at what point I just I decided I am not quitting benzos no matter what they do to me until I'm out of this place. I'm not sure at what point I decided that. It was probably like maybe 4 months ago. But yeah, I did that shit all wrong. You know, I didn't. I'm in uncharted waters, mind you, and I don't have a sextant or a map. I'm just floating on a Sargasso Sea of pain, and I'm just lost, you know. And I, yeah, moving is so stressful, and finding a place and all that. It's like I had no one to help me with that, so it would have been all me, and I'm in a withdrawal state where I have days where I don't eat, I don't get out of bed, I'm not coherent, you know, and I'm not, you're really not in any condition to do that kind of heavy life stuff, and like moving super stressful. And at the time, I would have wanted to move a lot of my shit because I didn't have bed bugs. Now I'm not moving. I'm moving almost nothing out of here. Um, I expect the Browns to bounce back. I, I don't think they're that bad. I think their coach made a mistake and didn't play their key players and protected them in the preseason, so they had no time together. And that's why that bullshit game happened today. So I still think they will make the playoffs. I still believe that. Um, but I can sell all my stuff off here except for my guitar, and just start over again, and have enough money from the sales, and being a frugal person who grew up poor, I can save up money. I don't know how many months that'll take. Or I can go to the psychiatrist guy tomorrow and ask him about the I can problem and maybe get out of here quicker. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. But I'm going to have to take a drink. That's almost an hour. I wanted to do about an hour. I'm dripping cold water on myself from the condensation of this jug of ice water. Actually, I know someone, and she is a total train wreck. I mean, a total train wreck. And she makes good money as a life manager. It's so hilarious. She's an alcoholic, and she's out to lunch, but she works as a life manager, and people pay her for that exact job description. And I've never seen her sober. The first time I met her, she is obsessed with her son having some silverware or something that belongs to her, and I was eating like cake, and it was like at a UFC event that they were watching at their house or something. And she says to me, when you walk by, just wipe that knife off and throw it in my purse. Like, she won't let it go somehow, that this silverware that her son has belongs to her somehow. And it really doesn't. It's just, and that poor dude, like, he come back from the army, and his uh, dad had left his mom and got hooked up with this other woman, and that's the only place he had to go. And so he just got summarily kicked out of his house. I mean, it's a whole dramatic story, and I don't remember it clearly enough to tell somebody else's story anyway. But I mean, he was in a situation where he more or less they changed the locks on him, and he took whatever possessions he could. I think he even lost his driver's license that way, where they just locked him out of the house. That's his dad. And I guess his dad is the type of person that invites you to dinner and makes you pay the check for both y'all. You know, real bad people. But the life manager lady, it just cracks me up that, she's a complete mess and an alcoholic. I mean, she was so drunk when I met her that I couldn't tell if she was serious about me like smuggling their silverware and putting them in her purse. You know, I couldn't tell if she was serious or not. But I'm like, I pretend like she wasn't serious because I'm not. Just go buy yourself some new silverware. According to them, you make thousands of dollars a month as a life manager. You can afford some new silverware. But yeah, I needed a life manager through this whole process to where they'd be like, look, you're in a bad situation here, living here in a slumlord palace and dealing with hood rats and dealing with junkies. And now you're dealing with a PTS guy who gets mad because you give them 2.5 to 3 times what they would have got for their cans anyway. Because literally, I gave him like 2 to 3 times what he would have gotten for his aluminum cans, and he didn't have to pick them up, and somebody else took them away from him. So I was like, I thought I was doing you a favor. And he was like, don't do me no favors. And he threatened to punch me in the face twice. And I was like, go ahead. Just don't hit me in the glasses. I was like, I can take a shot to the face. You probably hit me, and I'll probably turn around and smile at you. You know. And then he threatened to cut my hand off for being a thief and stealing his cans, even though, like, I paid him, like, double or triple what those cans were actually worth. And he held up a can. One can he held up. He says, this is worth 20 cents. And I'm thinking to myself, bull fucking shit. Because you told me the other day that it takes a pound of aluminum to get 55 cents. And I don't know how many cans would equal a pound, but you are out to lunch, dude. And he wasn't even, like, hammered. He had been drinking a little bit, but he wasn't even that drunk. He started the day out by cracking a beer and whatnot. So, it might have been cumulative from the night before or whatever, but I was talking to my brother, and he's explaining to me, it's like, well, even like a dry alcoholic will be like a dog with a bone on a specific point. This was just his theory. I don't know if this is true or not. So he just stuck to that one point, like those weren't your cans to give away. Even though I didn't give them away, I paid for the fucking thing, But he couldn't get past the point that that was his stuff and that I had no right to do that. I had no right to put extra money in his pocket when he needed it most. I have no right to be a good friend to him. I have no right to clean up the house that he's been living in for 2 years, maybe, that I've been living in for 10. I had no right to help out that odd individual that was walking down the street and kind of make his day. I have no right to spread sunshine in the world. We need darkness. We need, he needs those cans out there to remind him that he has a Jones or something. I don't know. He was trying to explain his point of view. And I was like, I really want to understand this from your point of view, because I don't understand it at all, But he was like super pissed, but I don't care. Like I said, man, you go ahead. Right here. Let go. If you feel the need, go ahead, man. He doesn't understand that, like, not only can I take a shot to the face, I've taken shots to the face by guys that outweighed him by 60 pounds, that I used to be able to pick up 120 pounds or 130 pounds or whatever he weighs with one hand. That's why I'm like, I don't got much left of it, but that's why I still have good upper body strength, which I demonstrated by letting him get in the leverage position on arm wrestling, and he couldn't move me at all, and he gave it his best shot. It's like, he's like, you're not in my weight class. You know, he's I'm not gonna do this. Don't break my arm. And I'm like, I'm not gonna even try to move you, dude. I just want to see how strong you are. So he did the whole thing where you dig the thumb in and you grab the arm and shit like that. And he got in a big leverage position. He couldn't move me at all. So it's like, dude, you need to quit threatening me. I'm gonna laugh one of these days, and it's gonna piss you off. That's what I'm thinking. It's like I wouldn't say this to him, but I'm gonna, because he takes himself very seriously, of course. But I was like, I'm gonna laugh one of these days, and you're gonna hit me, and then things are gonna really go bad, you know, um, because I was explaining to my cousin. He's like in Florida. I was like I was like, you don't understand. Like I know things about human anatomy that other people don't know. I know techniques about fighting. I'm not an MMA guy, mind you, but I know techniques about fighting that other people don't know. Like, for instance, when I got a hold of the guy's arm and was ragdolling him with one arm, all I have to do is get him in an arm bar and come down with an elbow right here. That's a dislocated elbow or a broken arm, and you got one arm now. All I got to do, since I outweigh you by that much, is legs or no legs, get you on the ground, get that weight on top of you, and I've done it before, and ground and pound. And I'm very good at that, okay? But if for any of you women out there that need self-defense techniques, not necessarily in this order: eyes, throat, balls. Mark it down. Guy comes up behind you, they tell you to stomp on his foot with the heel, and then come back with an elbow and all this shit like that. But if you're face to face with the guy, throat, I would go for the eyes first if they're not wearing glasses. That's why they tell you to like put keys between your fingers, and go for eyes. You fuck up somebody's eyes, man. That's why they stop boxing matches and stuff, is because you fucked up eyes, you can't fight right. Um, balls, that's kind of a tricky thing, because you can get somebody in the balls, and if you don't get them right, it's not gonna have. You got to be a finisher. You can't just like kick them in the balls and run. You got to do other stuff to them. That's why I like the movie You're Next, because that woman in there is a finisher. And if you ever want to watch a good action movie where a woman is a heroine, that's the movie for you. It's called You're Next. But I was like, finally, they're getting it right. They got a woman that's not like hurting the guy, hitting the guy with something, and then running away. No, she hurt the guy and then kills his ass. And, that's what it's got to come down to. But anyway, there's other things like the knee. You can kick him in the front of the knee, preferably the side of the knee. That's going to do some bad things. And distance is also important in a fight, okay? You can't let somebody of us, it depends on their size, but you don't want them too close to you. You want to have room. You want to have space. You don't want them up in your face. Like that limits what you can do to them. There's lots of things that I know about this, having been raised the way I was raised. Like I could have broke that guy's arm that one day very easily. All I did was wrench his arm and like hurt his shoulder a little bit. But, it's like, you need to quit threatening me. I mean, I don't give a fuck if I got bad legs. I got knowledge that you do not have, and I'm cool. I can be hot-blooded as far as like getting into a fight, but in a crisis, I can be as calm as a cucumber. Like, I'll give you an example of that. Is when I would be able to ride a bicycle, right? I had a rope. Instead of like expensive toe clips or anything like that, I just tied a rope over top of the left pedal where I could slip my toe into, because I would have trouble with my left foot slipping off of the pedal all the time. But I had good strong legs and I could haul ass on a bicycle and shit. So I'm going down this hill and I'm picking up too much speed, and I realize the turn that I have to make, it's actually going like this and then back up this way. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make this turn, and I realize that there's going to be some damage done here to me. And I'm thinking, in my calm, I know bad things are going to happen to me, but I'm calm. And I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit this big ass curb with the bike. I'm just going to let go. I'm going to fly off of the bike, and I'm going to try to miss this huge, enormous grating, with the graded sidewalks with the little dimples, and land in the grass. I should be cool. The problem was I forgot that I was tied to the bike with the rope. So when I hit the curb doing, I'd say about 30, um, I like raise up, to try to get the start toward flying over the cement into the grass. Well, I'm tied to the bike. So I do this. I raise up, straight down on the cement. Boom, both forearms. I kept my face up and didn't bash my face somehow or another. Again, cool under pressure. And I just hit my forearms. But I hit my forearm so hard it raised like a hot dog ridge on my right forearm. And my whole forearm went numb. And I'm like, damn it. The whole point I come to this park and did this was to go fishing. And I'm going fishing. So I go fishing. And this is my casting hand. So that's cool. And this is my reeling hand. So, but that's what happened. What I was talking about in another video is like when you hurt yourself real bad like that, like your brain has a cutoff with the nerves. And so my arm was just numb. I could use my hand, but my whole arm was numb. Well, it didn't stay numb. It started to wake up, and it was time to go home. And I got tired of fishing like real quick. It's like, yeah, but like I can be calm like that. Point being, in a fight, like when I confronted that dude in the kitchen, I had like a plan. I was pissed off, but I had a plan in my head where like this guy is a lot bigger than me, so I have to do some serious damage to him quick. I didn't even look down at his nuts, but I'm like, I knew what kind of pants he was wearing. I knew I could get a hold of his nuts. I was like, I'm going to grab his nuts with one hand, the front of his fucking jacket with the other hand. And I knew the house that he was trying to throw me out of. And I was like, there's a counter, and it's only like yay thick. And if you put force on the smaller an area you put force on, the more damage you do. So I was going to drive him backward, and that was going to hit across his low back, and it was going to hurt like a bitch. And then I was going to take it from there. But I already told that story before. But the idea is I can be like in a rage and calm at the same time, which is an unusual thing. And sometimes some of that stuff's instinctive, but sometimes it's like you separate from your body, and you're like, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and this to you. So he don't need to be threatening me. It's not a good plan. I think he knows enough from the arm wrestling thing and from me ragdolling him. Don't cross that line. You don't want to cross that line. But him being, it might happen, and things will get ugly. If he's standing up, okay, and he rushes me and tackles me and gets up, and I'm just stuck on the ground, and he stays back and kicks me, then I ain't got no chance. That's why I said me and him standing up, I wouldn't have no chance. Okay, but if I get a hold of him, that shit is over with. Why do I always gotta be so violent? It's God, I wish I could get that part of me out of me. It's just, like I said, the way I was raised, you raised around killers and leg breakers and bad people and bar fighters, and Yeah, I just can't get that. But yeah, that was like fucking with me. I just couldn't understand it. I was like, you're just I've said that before. Whenever I'm faced with the logic, I'm like white flag. I don't. There's nothing here for me to deal with. You know, it's like when I tried to work things out with my sister. It's like there's no logic here. You're not making any sense. And if you're not making any sense, or if you're remembering that, or you ever talk to somebody and they got like one version of the event and you got another version of the event, it's like you might as well be in a different multiverse with that person. It's like there's going to be no meeting of the minds until you can agree on the facts. That's why it's so important to me that to have somebody admit what happened. Like, um, this guy won't admit that he's like, oh, that boat's not that bad. Okay, he won't, or that motor will work, even though I had like a near expert guy working on it saying no, the motor ain't gonna work. Um, I already went through that. But whenever I'm faced with that kind of thing, it's like he admitted the truth of, you gotta be on the same page. You gotta be recognize the same truth. And like when he recognized the truth that he abandoned me, my brother, and my mother, he said, I don't have anything to say to that. I don't have no defense for myself. I have no defense. That's like, that is more satisfying to me. I can work with that than an I'm sorry or, blah, 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 or tears or whatever. Just let me know that we're both on living in the same goddamn reality and recognizing a thing for what it is. But when people do bad shit, a lot of times they don't want to take responsibility for it, like with this boat. So they just, you know, he's actually calling my best friend a liar who's owned two of the exact same motors before and took it apart and worked on it thoroughly. He says, I just don't believe him. He says, all that motor needs is a little bit of starting fluid. It's like, I can't work with that. There's nothing I can do with that, or it's like it just needs cleaned up a little bit. I looked inside there the other day because the tarp was pulled back for some reason. And I looked in there and it's like, it's a goddamn mess in there. It's cleaned up a little bit. Everything needs taken out of there. The carpet needs ripped up. There's like old, rusted stringers in there, and there's like a corroded seats, and it's a fucking mess. You know. Um, yeah. So, yeah, I made that other video, and for some reason, this is an hour and 13 minutes. Hopefully, this is not another waste of my time. I was gonna say of your time and my time, but I wasted my time recounting the two stories of the cans and the doctor because it said it was a corrupt file or something. I hope this isn't the situation because I don't know if I want to tell these stories again. They're not that good. Um, Gabapentin is like a true serum to me, so it makes me, yeah, it's like, what's that, sodium pentothal in the movies. I don't know if that shit actually works, but it's like that. Um, but I just don't want to waste, I don't want this to be wasted because it's hard for me to focus like that, to focus for an hour. And believe it or not, you know, this isn't necessarily an easy thing for me to do. You could try it sometime. You could try like talking for an hour and telling stories and, trying to keep everything as tight as possible and coherent and stuff. And you know what? It's pretty hard. That's probably, uh, it's probably why I got like very low viewership is probably because it's very hard and I'm not that good at it. Or it could be any other number of reasons. It could be like it's an ADD age and people don't have time to listen to some old guy prattle on and talk about this, that, and the other. Or it could be like, look, man, I have so many hours in my life, I'm not devoting it to this fucking guy laying in bed. Or it could be like with me in movies. It's like I watch a movie for like 15 minutes. If it don't grab me in 15 minutes, there's a lot of other fishing to see. And there's a lot of other stuff. Entertainment these days is boundless. It isn't the 70s. We all don't have to watch Hawkeye Pierce and MASH and Trapper John MD or whatever the fuck. There's a billion entertainment options available. So, but I'm saying this can be very hard and very challenging, and that's why it's kind of a hit and miss with me as far as like being coherent, telling a story that's got enough details in it to make it interesting, but not too many details to where you get bogged down, you know. Um, but anyways, hopefully this will come out and this one will print, and I won't have to talk about stupid aluminum cans and people threatening to punch me in the face and cut off my hand anymore. So, uh, yeah. Pills do not seem to be having a great effect, but uh, sometimes it's hard to tell. But after what I did, see if my strawberries getting any worse. Not really. Yeah, you can probably see it. It goes like here. It's about yay big. See, this kind of shit freaks people out. But this is a way to demonstrate pain tolerance or the level of pain I'm in. Like when I punched my teeth thigh bruise. It fucking don't mean nothing to me, man. It's like I gotta live with that kind of shit every day. It don't mean nothing. It's the same look on my face when I stomp my ingrown toenail that one day to make a point in front of this panel of doctors. It was so weird to be sitting at a table and have all these big brains with different titles and different occupational this, and the head guy was there, a legend in his own time, Edward Covington, and then you got your neurology teams, and you got all of these big brains here, and they're trying to argue with me, and I settled the argument really quickly by doing what I just did to my strawberry ripped up skin area bruise, and just stomped on my toe and looked at him and said, you know, but that was to demonstrate the fact that I don't have fine feeling and motor function in my feet. It has nothing to do with me having a fear of driving, because I tried it before. My fear of driving, it should be other people on the road's fear. It's like irresponsible for me to behave in that fashion and just like go out there and see what happens. What happens? Bust up somebody's car, maybe their face, maybe kill someone, just because some doctors tell me, oh, it's just in your head. It's like, not happening. But, yeah, I guess that's long enough. That's a nice long video, nice long chunk for anybody that's, for the maybe dozen people that listen to me on the rig. I get a few people here and there, I suppose, that check in and check out or like watch a little bit until I become boring, like I do with football games or anything else. Believe it or not, I have a big enough ego that I can talk on here and believe I'm interesting, but I also have a small enough ego to understand that I do the same thing with stuff. Like I'll watch part of a baseball game and be like, I had enough. I just was watching part of the Buccaneers game because invested heavily in Brett Perriman cards because he should be playing for the Browns right now. I don't think he would have helped them today against the Titans, but I was watching some of that, and I'm like, after the Browns game, I really don't want to watch any more football for a while. So yeah, I really don't have. It really doesn't surprise me. It actually surprises me now that I have like 112 prescribers prescribing that dose of Steve. Everybody needs a dose of Steve nowadays. Um, but yeah, let me take a drink. You at least deserve a song if you hung in there for this long, so I'm gonna sing you a song. It won't be a Mr. Rogers song. The problem is I have a very deep voice. I don't think I can do this an octave lower, but I'll try it. No one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes. Okay, my voice is too hoarse to do that, but I always sing that to the war vet, you know, and no one. I'll just recite the lyrics to it since the lyrics are so good. Since I can't, my voice is shot. But anyways, no one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes. No one knows what it's like to feel these feelings like I do, and I blame you. But my dreams, they aren't as empty as my conscience seems to be. I have hours only lonely. My love is vengeance that's never free. And then it goes into a little instrumental break, and it says, if my fist clenches, crack it open before I use it and lose my cool. If I smile, tell me some bad news before I laugh and act like a fool. And if I swallow anything evil, put your finger down my throat. And if I shiver, please give me a blanket. Keep me warm, let me wear your coat. Music. And then it just says, no one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes. And if you're old, you know the song. I skipped a verse in it that says that no one knows what it's like to have these feelings. None of my pain and woe can show through. But yeah, it's like, dude, this is your theme song. Okay? Because you're swallowing evil shit. Your fists are clenching, you're punching shit until your hands are fucked up and sore and bloody, and he had a monkey bubble on his knuckle from punching the mailbox. You got no one knows what it's like to be you and have those bad feelings. You got blue eyes, and you try not to let none of your pain and woe show through, though it definitely does. I mean, I'm like, so I sing him that song sometimes. And he's like, oh, you're going to serenade me, huh? And he listens to it. And I was like, hey, man, this song was written for you, with you in mind. It's like he was always talking about getting revenge on people, like flattening those people's tires outside or laying down like a bunch of nails and shit. And I'm like, well, you might get the wrong car, and it's like my love is vengeance, which is never free. And vengeance isn't free because it's landed him in jail a couple of times. It's like, man, this is your theme song, dude. And so I usually just sing him the first few bars. And oddly enough, as sensitive as he is, as volatile and ready to, you know, punch and threaten and all that stuff like that, he's kind of takes that in stride, which I find interesting because I sang him the whole song one time, and he was just looking at me like I was crazy, and he's like, "I didn't know I was going to come out here to get serenaded." Anyway, that's a much better way to kill an hour and a half than watching a damn football game. At least I feel like I did something, like I was able to um, fight aphasia and dementia and lack of creativity, throw together something interesting, tell some interesting stories about very interesting people. And no one died in this one. So, that's good too. You had action sequences in there and stuff. Hey, it wasn't that bad, I don't think. I'll watch it back again and I'll be like, feel foolish. And one author or another said that he always feels a mixture of pride and shame after he's done writing a book. And that's sort of like how I feel after I make one of these videos. Because I was like, not everybody could do this. I was like, not everybody could even be mildly interesting, unscripted, you know. Um, I'm not sure if I could hold an audience for this length of time, but so I feel a certain pride about that. But then I feel like shame that this is what my life has come to. This is one of my principal joys in life is just laying in bed talking to whoever wants to listen to um, these me ramble and try to construct stories with tie-ins and you know you know make something interesting for people to listen to. And the length, I kind of get ashamed about the length and about my ability to just keep talking. The shamelessness of it, I guess. I'm ashamed of my shamelessness. But that is the funny thing about human beings. It's like you can feel proud of something and ashamed of something at the same time. You feel that mixture of emotions that should be contradictory. But feelings are feelings. They got their own logic, has nothing to do with feelings. Feelings do not necessarily correspond to logic and reason. They just are. It's sort of like when you love somebody and it's a gut level instinctive thing, and you stay with them, and you're like, I really don't have anything in common with this person, but I'm drawn to them on some strange level. Like, like when I fell in love, for instance, it's like I don't know this person. I mean, I don't know. I know her name. I know what she looks like. I know where she works. I've never had a significant conversation with her. The closest thing to a deep conversation with her is I said something like, well, you got to trust somebody. And then she said something in the DTA mode, like, she's obviously was hurt before from trusting people. So she said something contradictory to that, which I don't remember because it was so many years ago. And yeah, I was like, I think I love this person. I have no reason to. It's just like a gut level thing. So emotions kind of operate outside of logic. So you can actually feel, like I said, I'm a shameless person because I just ramble on here for an hour and a half for my own amusement. I'm even like chewing gum and it's popping up. It just popped up there periodically. But I also have shame at I have shame and pride at being able to just ramble uh, and entertain myself in this manner and to construct coherent and somewhat interesting sentences off the cuff. So yeah, it just struck me as funny to be shameless and feel shame at the same time. Yeah, I don't I, I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm full of chemicals right now, so hey, anything. It's all up, but I shouldn't even think about. Her name was Gail. I shouldn't even think about that because that could have been a huge turning point in my life. You know, she could have ushered me into the wonderful world of sex because she definitely wanted to at least do a one nighter with me, and you know, she would probably had a break in my heart or whatever, but at least would have got some. As I think it's still an expression that kids use. Um, and I like never felt like that around anybody where I was like, damn, she is fine. Damn, she is hot. But I was calm and could talk to her at the same time. It's usually, damn, she's fine. Damn, she's hot. And then you go up and you talk to her and you're like, can't think of a damn thing to say. Or you say something stupid just to fill up the void. And, you know, it wasn't like that with her. I was like, man, this is a person that I could eat eggs over in the morning, eat eggs with, eat eggs over. I don't even know what that means, but this is a person that I could wake up, drink coffee with, and eat eggs with, or just could drink coffee with, and just look at them and look in their eyes and feel contentment and peace and talk to. And that would be better. The sexual aspect is what draws you, but that would be better than the sex. And that's what you look for because, listen, we all get old. It's just an inevitability. And sex drives and whatnot do wane. But to have a connection with somebody, it's like, that's what I was thinking about. Like with her, it's like, man, I would like to just go somewhere with her and talk to her. And it never happened for a reason that I cannot express here because it is a long, complicated, and sordid story that has an effect on people that are not sensible people like me that understand the two rules that the only things you have to feel ashamed about in this world are the things that you do that are bad and the things that you do where you could help people and you don't do them. Everything else that happens around you, it doesn't really matter, you know. So I can't get into why that never happened or I never could make that happen. I remember putting my foot in my freaking mouth when I tried to talk to her and tried to like let it be known my level of interest into her, and I will, since you stay with me this long, recite the painful thing that I said to her because I went in there specifically to make it known how much I liked her, and there was nobody. It worked out perfectly. There was nobody there but us, and and she was like, "Well, I need your uh, phone number for some reason." It had something to do with coupons or I don't know what. I said, that seems hardly fair. And she's like, well, I could give you mine. And I said, yeah, that would be okay. I just really came in here to tell you um, uh, that I'm attracted to you and, how much I like you. And then she smiled, and then I said, of course, I'm not all that picky. And I can see the hurt and stuff on her face. And she like gasped like she was in pain. That's how I knew she was into me. And I was like, I guess I better go. And she said, yeah, you better. And then I left. And then something very bad happened within a week before I saw her again. And that was the end of that. But that's how stupid I was. And that was my dad's words coming out, you know, that, but I'm not all that picky, you know. Instead of telling her, like, you know, not like stupid shit like you're beautiful or whatever, but just coming up with something. You think somebody of my verbal ability and intelligence would do better than that, but I had like zero experience with women, so I said it like a joke, but it's not a time. It wasn't a time to joke. I kind of said it jokingly, you know, but it wasn't a time to joke, and it visibly hurt her feelings. Like she gasped, and her face fell, and it was like, dude, you just blew it. It's like she was gonna give you your phone number, and I could have talked to her on the phone, and I'm golden on the phone. I've got experience talking to females on the phone, and I wonder, like, that was like a turning point in my life because that happened in 2003, and that's when my life went to hell. Was in 2003. After that, I started to have more health problems. I had my that happened. After that happened, like that literally broke my heart. It wasn't her that broke my heart. It was somebody else that broke my heart. But it literally, like, I literally had my heart broken because I had like arrhythmia when I was 36. I started to have heart problems because of the CRPS. I think it's like I actually think that whole thing kicked me into stage 2 of the CRPS because it has stages of the where I could still I just had like minor problems. I was like very physically powerful, had a full head of hair that women are into hair, man. The bald thing started to catch on, but this was back when women were into hair, and yeah, but that's what I said. I remembered it. I couldn't remember it, and I have the actual story posted on here somewhere, but because of the sensitive nature of it and the way that it affects other people that have different life philosophies and don't follow those two things, I cannot tell you the whole story. And I'm sorry for that I can't tell you the whole story. But I never felt like that around anybody in my entire life before or since. Where they have it a line and it's in the Spider-Man movie where the guy says, I feel excited around you and calm at the same time, and that is really what I felt around her. And it's like, really, that's what I wanted, was just I I wanted to look at her and talk to her. That's all I wanted. I didn't. It's like uh, virgin, didn't have sex, wasn't thinking about anything, but just like I just want to be alone with her and talk to her. Wasn't even thinking about it. She was. She had pale skin, dark hair. Loved her face, and most importantly, I loved her voice, because that's like, I'm like a voice man. You know how I say ass man, breast man, or whatever like that. I love if a woman's got a voice, the face and a good face like that doesn't even, have. I like an unconventional type of face anyway. Um, not I can recognize conventional beauty or conventional ideas of beauty from the actresses and stuff in movies and TVs and stuff. But I like what I like someone with an interesting face. Um, some I don't know, man. I guess I'm 51 years old and I'm deteriorating, and I may never feel that again. And it wasn't so much. It was just like, yeah, I can't tell the story here. I don't even know why I'm getting into it. I can't tell it here. I got it stashed on YouTube somewhere because, like I said, I put it on a therapy disc where it was supposed to be confidential. I gave it to somebody who I thought was in like a could benefit from it, and they just lost it. So it's just floating out in the world somewhere anyway. So I just like put up a dummy account and hid it on here. And I shared it, I think, with a couple of people um, on here. But yeah, to think of the loss involved in there, the potential loss, involved in that. Because I know for a fact that she was into me. I know it. I know she was into me. And she might have found out about all my issues and been like, yeah. Or she might have been, sometimes like I have my niece has an expression where like sometimes people have damage that fits where they get each other, you know. And I don't think she had all that easy of a life from the look of her. But she was clean and healthy and didn't have any signs of any um, heavy substance abuse or anything like that. And to me, she was the most beautiful woman I'd had ever seen. And the first time I saw her, I remember the first time I saw her, and she was just pushing. She was pushing skids like this heavy skid, like leaning at an angle. And I was like, frankly, the first thing I noticed was her ass, but then I noticed her hair, and I was like, wow, that's a good looking woman. But then when I talked to her and saw her face, I, uh, that was it. That was there would there's never been. I never felt anything like that ever before, and I don't expect to ever feel it again. And now that my disease has progressed to this point, it would take a serious masochist to take any serious romantic interest in me. Uh, but man, of all the stupid fucking things to say, the woman just gives me my phone number, and I tell her that I'm attracted to her, and I tell her how much I like her, and then she doesn't say anything, and there's a silence that feels like it needs filled. So I say in a joking manner, of course I'm not all that picky. One sentence could change your life. That's a tough thing about being the guy, due to the nature of the equipment involved. the guy seems like he has to take the lead, you know? Man, if she only would have said something, you know? Only would have said something. If she only had, like, the gift of gab or whatever that I have, or the gift of stupidity in that case. Just, if she would have just said anything. Um, yeah, that was 2003, and that was like a demarcation time in my life where everything changed after that. And then, yeah, it was like it opened the Pandora's box for me of ills and horrors and things I've never imagined. I didn't understand how good I had it, even though I had CRPS. I didn't understand how good I had it or how healthy I was, or the fact that I could actually pedal a bicycle 5 miles just to go in there and make a goddamn fool out of myself in front of a woman I was in love with. And then something happened that made it unfixable, because you can come back from that. You can come back and say, look, I don't have a lot of experience with women. You'd be honest and be like, I don't have a lot of experience with women. And that was a stupid thing for me to say, and I'm really sorry, but because of what happened, there was just no going back. It was just like, again, the universe was just lined up against me. And I cannot tell you why. Um, because other people, goes into areas that affect other people, and you can't tell everything on the internet. But why I'm going through this painful memory, I don't know. But it is a fucking painful memory. And I just wonder sometimes, like, what my life would have been if that would have worked out. If whatever damage she had and whatever damage I had if we fit, if, because the way I felt around her, man, I didn't need any fucking drugs. I didn't need any fucking narcotics. I mean, it was like a strange form of like light euphoria around her, but I could talk, you know. It wasn't like, it was something beyond sexual. That's all I can tell you. There was plenty of women out there that I wanted to screw, being probably in the top 10 horniest dudes in the world, because I was saving myself for that particular experience, because I was, like I said, I was trying to, in that one video, I was trying to make up for all the shit that happened to me by having a real emotional connection with a woman and not just jumping into bed and busting a nut. And I blew it. Just fucking blew it. And never got her number. Went back in there a couple of times, and she went on vacation or something. And I couldn't find her, and I didn't want to leave notes with the people. I've already told this story before, so there's no point me going into it again and reliving the pain. Um, yeah, but no one knows what it's like to feel these feelings like I do. None of my pain and woe can show through. It shows through, I think. Not to the level that I feel it, but it shows through. All right, I'm going to say goodbye and wish you all good fortune. And if you ever get in that situation, um, in the show Kung Fu from the 70s, Cain, that was my scriptures too, man. I did not follow my scriptures. But Cain, in the original pilot movie, somebody asked him, "Why don't you ever speak?" And he said, "When one's words are no better than silent." Let me try it again. When one's words are no better than silence, it is best to remain silent. So I felt the need to fill in that gap of silence, and I should just looked at her in the eyes. Something like this. And then maybe we would have both laughed because we couldn't have, either one of us found anything to say. Then I would have got a number in a different life. But this is the life I got. This is the life I got to deal with. But I can still find a way to laugh at it, because I didn't know that person. It was just a gut level instinct, and it's just the way that I felt around them. But it was a feeling I was waiting for my whole life. And then like I said, man, it's kind of funny that I thought of the Kung Fu thing. I screwed it up, of course, being now that I've got all that Gabapentin in me, which is why I'm talking about this painful ass shit in the first place. Um, but yeah, when one's words are no better than silence, it is best to remain silent. I don't know if he got that off of Lao Tzu, uh, but it ain't a bad policy to follow. Coming from me, that is also kind of funny, considering that when it comes to talking, man, as my dad used to say, boy, you can talk a blue streak. I don't know what that meant, but my folks had all kind of expressions like that where I had it's like my mom used to say, "You're as cute as a fart in a mitten." And then I had another aunt who would say things like, because I come from really people that come from West Virginia, so I'm like a second generation hillbilly. And she used to say, "Land of Goshen." And I used to think that she was saying Atlantic Ocean, but as like an exclamatory phrase of surprise or shock, or just like a standard thing she would throw out there. She would say, "Land of Goshen," like from the Bible, the land of Goshen, which right now I don't know what that even means or what Goshen is, because the pills are taking effect and I'm not sleepy. And now I thought about some of the most painful stuff in my life, and I'm not likely to be sleepy. But I am likely to leave you alone now that we're at the 2 hour mark, and talk to you at some other time. And I'm going to listen to my train. It's done. That train whistle always tells me, man, to move. Get out of here somehow. But I think I said all I need to say, at least in this segment, and more. Like I said, because of the state of the world and this whole anonymity thing, it's like I would tell you whatever, you know, but you can't do that, because anonymity also means that there's people that can lie back in the weeds and be malicious. And so anonymity for me is a bad thing, but it's a good thing for people that are of, let's say, a lower rank on a scale of developed humanity. On that arrogant note, I shall close. And thank you for being my neighbor. Goodbye.